Greetings, Moonlight citizens. This is Man on the Moon and the Moonlight Kingdom Podcast, starting now in 3, 2, 1. It's just this thing I've been wondering though. It's where you hear all these stories about from they're fake news. Everybody knows they're fake news. They're made up. There's no statistics backing them about like people in the trans community committing crimes. It just got me thinking, if someone who was trans did commit a crime and they had to go to jail, like how would the courts figure out what jail to send them to?
So, this is a multifaceted question that I've put a lot of time into, and I haven't come up with a perfect answer. But my current answer is an individual with a known diagnoses that's moving through life as a woman should go to a woman's jail. A man should go to a man's jail. Now, where I do get pushback even from my own community is if somebody committed the crime as a man and then came out while they're currently under sentence in jail, I don't have the answer for that. I don't know if I feel they should be moved at that point because they did the crime and were tried for the crime as a man. So I am kind of stuck. And this is, like I said, this is why I'm stuck on this. I don't have a good answer for it.
There are very few sentences that incorporate sex into the sentencing, and those ones are sex-based crimes.
Well, that's the biggest one I'm talking about. Is
like even then, that's sex. That's not gender. It
okay.
says male and female in the.
Apparently, I'm going to debate my husband on it while I'm trying to answer the question.
I'm not debating you. I'm letting you know that, like, even then, it says male and female. It says these specific things, but your sentence is never specific to where you go, unless it's like fucking Alcatraz, basically.
But more or less, what I was trying to get at with the conversation is that the individuals need to be, their humanity still needs to be taken into accountability, and all individuals need to be safe. I don't think putting a trans woman into a men's prison is going to be safe for them, as safe as prison can be. And vice versa for a trans man going to a woman's prison. It's just going to cause all kinds of problems. Do I think they might possibly need to be separated from general populace? And I'm not talking about
Solitary.
I'm not talking about solitary, but they do break prisons down into different population groups by risk factor. Yeah, I think that's something that needs to be done. One of the biggest worries we always hear is, oh, well, what if they still have their appendage and they can get someone pregnant? Well, first and foremost, that falls on the prison and their problem, because what are you not supposed to be doing in prison? What is one of the core fundamental rules? You're not supposed to be having sex. You're not allowed. People do it, but that's already against the rules. So that's a whole nother ballpark. And before we start worrying about that, let's worry about the prison guards that are having non-consensual smacks with prison inmates because they see them as less than human. My overall answer is the entire prison system needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. But I do think trans people should go to the prison of their gender identity, except maybe in sex-based crimes.
Yeah, in situations as it comes to prison, you ever notice that that's the one area where nobody really pipes up in regards to something like that? No one ever really says, well, this person was born this way, so they should go to a men's prison. This person was born female, so they should go to a women's prison. The people on the, what's the word? The detractors.
Give me 1 second, Moon. User, you can't even say it with your whole chest? You had to put it over multiple words? Do you think you did something amazing there?
No, it's no problem. I lost my train of thought, but yeah.
You
Mm,
said it's not something that comes up or is dealt with
yeah,
in conversation,
in
something
like,
along those
yeah,
lines.
it's not really something people don't really discuss what happens if someone were to go to jail because I mean they'll gladly talk about trans person in a bathroom or trans people in sports, but rarely do they get into the more legal side of things of what happens if a trans person were to commit a crime. Where would they go? There's not a lot of discussion on that side of things. That's what I'm saying. It's just strange, is all.
Yeah, so it does come up once in a while. I hear it very very little, where this is brought up. And like I said, I don't have a perfect answer for it. But then again, I think our prison system itself is not anywhere near perfect. Um, my general answer is, I guess my general answer is right now it's currently state by state, but I think individuals should go to the prison of their gender identity, except maybe in sex-based crimes, and I would have to do a lot more introspection on that. I would have to sit down, look at statistics, look at numbers, look at how they would be separated, how even a cis man going to prison for that, specifically how things work in the case of a sex-based crime and how it's dealt with in prison. Because as far as I know, depending on the sex-based crime, you are very unsafe in prison, whether from the guards or from the fellow inmates. You are in a whole lot of fucking trouble because people frown upon that.
Yeah, it's heavily frowned upon to be in prison for smash related crimes because a thing, you know, my one English teacher explained it because, especially as it relates to P3 files, like they have the worst time out of anybody because there's like some
J-Noise,
unwritten codes.
have you considered not existing?
Honey, you're interrupting.
Good
Stop.
grief.
Just a question.
Anyway, sorry, man on the moon.
Um, yeah. Yeah, explain that, you know, they have like a hard time in prison because there's this sort of unwritten code amongst even criminals, like, hey, no women, no kids. So it's like, plus a lot of the people in
And
prison,
even
like,
if it's not the unwritten for women,
yeah,
which I do agree with you, is they do hold a harder thing for somebody that's committed a sex-based crime against a woman. Um, the moment, and it's awful of me to say, but at the same time, I think they should get everything they deserve plus a few for doing a sex-based crime to a fucking minor. Um, so yeah, their life is completely at risk. Many don't make it through their prison sentence for one reason or another, if that's the reason they went to jail and it's found out.
yeah.
Also, really quick before we continue, can somebody please explain me the logic that is in people's heads that MAGA now thinks Trump is daddy? That's
Very gay.
They've been saying
very
that for
kinky.
years. I've been seeing that on other lives. Like they've been saying that ever since they won that election. They've been very weird. Like they're very sore winners. It's like,
Well, I mean, they did run around with tampons on their ears trying, after the whole thing with Trump and pew-pews. Like, this is solid? No, that's just weird.
keep in mind these are the same people who swear that they are not sheep and they don't follow blindly. Just
Yeah, the same ones. Didn't they run around with adult depends on for a while, too, after Trump shat himself at a speech?
Yeah.
that's just sad.
Honey, I can't have two conversations.
North Dakota Republican Senator Ray Holmberg has been sentenced to 10 years in prison for traveling to Prague to rape children.
Great, they can hit. It's TikTok. Great. Thank you. So, yeah, every time a Republican tries to call out another community as being an awful individual, they end up getting arrested for doing it because the call's always coming from inside the House. I'm not surprised anymore. By the way, that's number 19. I've been keeping track of this year. That's 19 Republicans that have tried to call out the queer community in some way, shape, or form for being quote-unquote predators that has now been arrested for traveling within the U.S. or outside the U.S. to solicit minors. So maybe police your own fucking houses before you try to police the queer community, which don't have those type of statistics. Not that there can't be a predator within the queer community, but it's not as anywhere near statistically as likely as these old fucking white men that are Republicans.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but my husband likes to have conversations at the same time I'm doing things, and I think that's half because I have an earbud in and he can't hear that I'm listening to you.
Speaking of travel, there was at the beginning of the year there was all these executive orders in, and everybody's, you know, every there was this war on pronouns basically. Apparently something happened with hunterschafer. You heard the name hunterschafer before?
I've heard it in passing. I'm not familiar with it.
Oh,
Is it something I should be?
she's this actress. She was on like this movie Cuckoo and on the show Euphoria. So apparently, because because of this war on pronouns, apparently at one point Hunter Schafer had some trouble with traveling because the information on her ID and the information that was now on the computer, because well, pronouns aren't a thing anymore, didn't match up, and it kind of caused issues. It just reminded me of this. This isn't funny because people's lives are getting jammed up here because of this bullshit, but like, it reminded me of the Looney Tunes episode where like Bugs Bunny like dressed up in full drag and went to Albania to. It's a whole thing. He had to.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
get where
he
you're
went to
going with this.
Albania as to get away from Porky and Lola Bunny, and then he tried to book a return flight back to the States. He like walked up to the check-in place in full drag, and they looked at the ID and they looked at him, and I'm like this information and like what's going on here doesn't match up, and he was detained, and it's like, when did our lives turn into this Looney Tunes episode? Cause hot damn, but yeah.
Well, I've been saying that for ages now. When did our literal lives become the plot to a movie or a sitcom?
If this was a sitcom, it would at least be funny. I mean, still though.
Yeah, you're right. So sitcom is a bad representation. A B-rated movie. That's what I
Yeah.
feel life currently is right now.
Yeah, it does feel
But
that
yes,
way.
okay. Now I know who Hunter Schafer is. They actually just made a huge announcement. Like she's a well-known trans woman.
Yeah.
Well-known trans woman that just went to get her passport updated and they put an M on it. I'm sorry. If you got an M on your passport and you look like her, like she's absolute. I have a few pictures of her up. She's absolutely fucking gorgeous. Yeah, nobody's going to believe that.
So you see the issue. Like, this can't be. Like, you would hear this story and think to yourself, this can't be for real. Do you not see the person in front of you? This doesn't make sense. But then they just take it on the basis of, well, the computer says one thing. It doesn't matter what our eyes are telling us. The computer says this thing, so.
That's not even. That's the worst part of it. It's every piece of computer literature except her original birth certificate says female. And they had to backtrace it all the way to whatever some doctor said at birth, and we're like, nope, we're gonna change your marker. All because some old fart that doesn't understand anything about modern science, understand anything about what it is to be trans, weaseled and lied his way into the office, and people were dumb enough to actually vote him in. Goes, oops, this is the way it is now. Fuck science.
Yeah, I see that. But then you see the man speak and you hear some of the ideas he had, but then you see some of the things he proposes, and it's like, I don't think all of this stuff was his idea. It's clear that some of these things
No, I
were
don't think
fed
he's
to him.
smart enough to have the ludicrous ideas that he's had.
Yeah.
I think he's dumb enough to, like, I really just don't care if I speak bad about him anymore because he's a fucking idiot. I think he's dumb enough to misconstrue the shit he's been told. And I think people are even dumber for the fact that we screamed from the rooftops. He was absolutely advocating for Project 2025. And because he came up once and said, nope, I've never heard of it, I have nothing to do with it, people were like, Trump said it, it's good, we're good now. And let's go look at the checklist of how many things in 3 months they've already passed that are directly out of Project 2025.
It's definite. I can't quite explain this, but like, you see all these stories nowadays of people talking about how they regret their decision because now their decision is actively impacting them, and it's like, I I have sympathy for my fellow man, but even that has limits of what did you think was going to happen? Did you think it was just us who were going to be negatively impacted by this? Did you not miss the part when he said everybody? The dude said exactly what he was going to do, and now people are surprised that he actually did it.
Well, the thing that actually irks me the most is I'd still be annoyed, but I would be less pissed if people woke the fuck up and were like, yeah, we all made a huge fucking mistake. But there are still people that are backing him 100%. Like, nope, he's amazing. And they will move the goalpost and shove the goalpost to the bottom of the deepest part of the ocean just so they can support him.
Personally, I'd be asking, we? What's this we shit? We didn't do shit. Y'all voted. But hey,
Yeah,
I get what you mean. Yeah.
Right. But no, because you brought this up, and you said something very specific, is until it affected them, they didn't understand. And I'm going to read an extremely powerful poem from one of the worst parts of our human history in the past decade. Past 100 years. Decade? Decade's 10. Anyway.
Century.
First They Came by Martin, and I can't pronounce his last name.
Is that the one where it ends with they came for me, but there was no one left to speak up because everyone else was gone?
Basically, yes.
Oh,
but I
okay.
am going to read it because
Yeah.
you brought it to the forefront of my mind. So this is a poem by this individual. This has to do with the Schmolocaust. First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out, because I am not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me, because until it affects someone personally, they keep their goddamn mouth shut, because, it doesn't affect me.
Yeah, it's the unfortunate nature of human beings, and it comes to a lot of things. It's that we inherently have this thing where we look out for our own self-interests and like self-preservation and all that. And there are situations where it's warranted.
The majority of mankind has lost the concept of self-preservation because they've gotten too big for their own britches, to use another old phrase. They don't think they can be touched. They get too, not sedimentary, settled in their way of things, and that nothing can touch them until it does.
Yeah, there was just this air of complacency for the last couple of years.
That was the word I was looking for. Thank you so much.
Welcome. It's just there was that immediate aftermath when that election happened, and you had the people on that side who were just rapturous applause and cheering all around. They were happy they won, and then you had everyone else who just didn't know how to react. But then after a while, just sort of went back, like everyone just sort of like went back to work. In for lack of a better term, we just like, okay, that happened. Now we have to move on because the world doesn't stop spinning just because this dude won the election or whatever. But it was in
No,
that
the
aftermath that I started wondering, like, because of the complacency that we've had, I mean, that America's had, because of how lax things have, I don't know, how people have taken things for granted, maybe this was needed. Like, maybe. I'm not saying this is what was needed, but maybe, just maybe, the US of A needed a big old foot up its ass. Just,
Well, I'm twofold on that answer. Yeah, I think America's got beyond complacent. They have this unrealistic concept that they're always going to be number one in everything, which America hasn't been for a long time. Not saying America's a bad country. Even with the current shit that's going on, America still isn't the worst place in the world to live. It's getting worse, but it's not the worst place in the world to live. But did America need a fucking wake-up call? Yes. Do I think this was the best thing that could have happened, or a good thing that could have happened? No, because I actually think just reading through history and literature and everything else, a kingdom, an empire, whatever you want to call it, is about 250. I think it was 57 years is the average length of an empire before its fall. Trump's presidency was either 5 or 4 years before our 257th year. So I am under the firm belief that unless people wake the fuck up and do something, this is the fall of the United States. The United States is going to crash. And I don't know, right now, I don't know how we recover unless more people wake up. Because yes, this man was voted into office. Sure, I can follow the theories and guidelines, and even I have a hard time believing it, that it was actually a true and fair election, because everything out of Trump's mouth that he accuses someone else of is something that he's done himself in some way, shape, or form. Like, every single thing he goes and accuses others of is something somebody, he himself or his party has done. It's been shown time and time again. So he did nothing but accuse the Democrats of rigging the election. So would it surprise me if he rigged it? No, not in the least. But it is what it is. This is where we're at. And unless more people get their head out of their ass and use some critical thinking skills that you should have learned in like 4th grade and built upon, our country's doomed. The left needed a better candidate. No. For the first time in my history of voting, no. Kamala was an amazing candidate. You are absolutely incorrect on that.
yeah.
The only way she could have been a better candidate in the public eyes is she'd been an old white man. And that's the problem.
Wasn't that one of the things he was like slamming her for? Like he's saying like she wasn't actually black or something like that. It's just,
Oh, he did the same thing that he's done with all of them, just in different ways. He went after Barack Obama. He trying to relate him to the the sandbox, a certain name that I'm just not going to say on TikTok because I know it's not okay. He put a very specific middle name in there for a reason. He went after Hillary Clinton, which I don't think Hillary Clinton was the best candidate that the Democrats could have offered during that election. Still think she was better than Trump, but she lost. When it comes to Kamala, I think Kamala, hands down, is one of the best presidential elects that we've had in probably 30 or 40 years. I haven't been voting that long, but just from my own research and history, the only thing she had going against her was she was a black woman, and that's fucked up. There's no reason that should have been against her.
Yeah.
Some bad news.
I mean, you could argue. I mean, she kind of faced a similar thing that Obama ran through when he was running for president, because he had to be perfect. The fact that he was black meant that he had to be
but you know what he had
perfect.
going for him that she didn't?
Yeah. The fact
What
that he
do you
was
have?
the fact that he was a dude.
The fact he was a man. Absolutely. He had a lot going against him, but he was still a man.
Yeah. And if she had won, they would have found some way, just like they did with Barack. They would have found some way to spin her. Let me just say this: for all the stuff that was said beforehand about how she's not really black, had she won, she would have been very black very quickly all of a sudden. Because when Barack was in office and he did something they didn't like or he made a mistake, they were very quick to mention that he was African American. Whenever he did something whenever he did something right, he was just the president. Like, his ethnicity never came into question when things were fine. But when something seemingly went wrong, they very quickly mentioned, like, hey, remember, he's a black guy. They didn't actively say that's why he messed up, but they alluded to it. And you just know if she'd gotten into office, they would have done that eventually.
Yeah, if you're part of a minority group, that's gonna happen every time. When you're doing something right, you're still not doing it right enough.
Yeah.
But if you do something wrong, it's because you're part of that minority group. Every time. Doesn't matter which group it is.
Yeah. A very politically
I'm gonna
charged
cut
thing this has
this one
been,
short.
but
I try
yeah.
to keep politics off my live because
Yeah,
I can't.
I'm gonna roll
As a
out. I don't
and
want
I
to.
will say I'm
Yeah.
slightly
There's
biased.
nothing there for you to bury.
Slightly biased on the way I think, but as a military veteran, it's abhorrent what has happened to the country that I served. I am fuming, and it's very hard for me to stay civil when politics come up.
Okay. Anywho, you be sure to have a good day and try to take it easy in these turbulent times, with especially with all the people that come up. And you mentioned something earlier about on when you're on other people's live streams, like the live stream is cool. I just hate when certain people come up because you just know it's gonna be something bad. I feel you on that.
Well,
I've
yeah,
definitely
the
been
worst.
there. But
Like I
yeah,
said, I love Carbon's lives.
yeah,
And I'm not going to tell Carbon how to run their lives. There's just certain times that I'm like, Carbon, you know this person is a
yeah,
heinous individual. Why are you bringing them up for the 6th time?
right. But yeah, it's definitely
But
a tough
anyway,
thing to do. But yeah, the fact that you're still there, being as positive as you can and giving support, even though you know like this is the fifth time, but even though it's the fifth time, I'm still gonna be here and like continue to be on this live and not let it ruin it for you. That's yeah, that's a positive thing. I can relate to that, and that's commendable in its own right. Hi, how's it going?
oh, hold on.
Test, test, test.
There we go. Now you're through the proper thing. Chat, can we hear Man on the Moon? Did TikTok Live Studio switch over properly? Also, Matthew, thank you so much for the heart me. Thank you so much for the friendship necklaces. Thank you so much, Matthew. What's up? How may I help you today, Man on the Moon?
Just a question, really, as it relates to,
Sure.
I think, trans women. Uh, what's with the scars? I know there are scars from like top surgery, but I mean like the scars on the stomach, because I've noticed there are some trans women who do have like scarring on the stomach. Like, is that from the? Because I know like
Are you talking about like here,
yeah,
and here approximately?
yeah, around there.
So that is most likely. There's a couple surgeries that can use those scars. You have individuals that have done a variation of liposuction, which can leave scarring. But more than likely, if they're the very specific spots that I pointed out, there's a specific type of vaginoplasty that they use because stomach lining is the closest thing the human body has to the type of skin that's in a vagina. They use that to line it. It's actually a technique that they developed. It's called PPV. It's a technique that they originally designed for cis women that had some kind of breakdown within the vaginal area. And they have now figured out how to move it over to trans women to line that whole area. So that scarring is the machine that went in there and was able to use that tissue to line the vaginal canal.
Lining, like, um, I don't mean to get too personal, but you mentioned that it like lines the vaginal canal. Like, what? You mind if I ask what is that for?
Um, so it holds two things. It creates a natural lubrication. So does it lubricate like a non-neo vagina, like a stereotypical? No. Does it give more than just using the penile inversion technique? Yes. And each individual basis is going to be different. So it's a softer tissue. It's more pliable. It tears less. It damages less easy, and it creates its own natural lubrication. So again, this is the closest technique we have to replicating a cisgender woman's vagina, or replicating the vagina in general, because again, cisgender women do get this surgery in certain instances.
Okay, that well, that clears that up. That's good to know. It's just that I've seen there have been people on TikTok and I've seen some on Instagram who do have the scarring down there, and it's just like been a thing I've
Yeah,
been
so
wondering because
like I said, there's a couple of different surgeries, but you will see more trans women with those four particular scars um, from PPV, which is that specific type of bottom surgery. Not that it couldn't be from something else. There's a multitude of reasons to have scars down there, including various types of liposuction. Some of them because individuals don't want to lose their love handles or something. But typically those are a little further on the side, although there are some individuals that when they're doing it, it's like they have it further on the side and then they come in more, and it's a 6 scar system. So there's a multitude of different surgeries, both for cis and trans women, that could produce those scars. But the areas that I pointed as somebody that did go through the PPV, I know those scars exist for that reason, is because they used a robot, went in through the stomach to create X, Y, and Z.
a robot.
Yeah, so basically the doctor uses this robot and controls the robot, but the robot helps be pinpoint and precise because it's a very delicate technique.
Okay, that
Um, so most of the higher end surgeons that do, whether for cis or trans women, and I think even for cis and trans men, depending on which surgery they're doing, they're switching over to robot assisted because robots are 100% steady, where a human could be 99% steady.
uh okay. No, I just asked because I at first I just figured the scarring was from like because when I think I figured from like HRT injections or like estrogen when someone would take estrogen because it's not like from what I understand when someone would take estrogen it's not like an EpiPen. You can't just stick yourself in the thigh, and it's
No,
not like
well, yes
oh,
and no. So most individuals, um, from here to here, is if they're doing injection for estrogen or testosterone, it goes approximately in this area right here. My hip is up here, so you're about right here on the legging. Usually it's right around here. I don't know if you can see that. Right around there. Up here, I think. Yeah. So mine's almost gone, but one of my scars was right here, and then I had another one over here. Usually they heal over the course of a year. Those scars turn out very light. but at the same time, I don't scar easily. Even my top surgery, my scar is this big for for the breast augmentation that I went through. And I've seen trans women with scars about
Yeah.
this big. My body doesn't typically leave lingering scars. It's one of the good things about me is I've never really scarred. Even so, my stomach should have a scar about this big. While I was in the military, somebody long sharp object inserted into me. This is something that happened to me. I have, like, if you're really up close, like if you were my husband, you'd be able to see it, but most people can't see it. It's super light. It's healed over time. It took years to heal, but my body just doesn't retain scars very often.
Yeah, there are, from what I've seen in regard, like in terms of like scarring, you are right. It does get, from what I've seen, big in terms of like what is up. I think the biggest I've seen was on this dude on YouTube, Miles McKenna, and he had like this shirtless photo. I first saw him, I thought like I didn't know anything about top surgery or trans. I didn't even know he was trans. So the first time I saw the scarring, I like, bro, what happened? Were you like, I don't know, like a magician's assistant, like the trick
Did
of,
the magic trick go wrong?
yes, I thought the same shit. I'm like, did the magic trick go wrong? Did you use a real saw or some shit? Like, that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
So
But yeah.
for trans men, that is, I don't want to say rite of passage, but it's almost a common thing, especially for older trans men. The older techniques, the scar would go from. Let's see if I can do this without TikTok getting mad. So trans men will typically have a scar that runs from about here up to here. That's an older technique. Or on individuals that have more tissue to take out, they have to use this technique. They have another technique, I believe it's called a keyhole technique, where they do it and their scar is very minimal. It looks like basically the inverse. It's the same type of scarring, but with the inverse. So with removal, they're getting the same scar as somebody that's having having augmentation of some sort. So they have techniques, but I don't think it works above a C cup. I would have to double check that. But your average trans man will have those scars. They're only just starting to make keyhole technique much more common. I think in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And the keyhole technique does come with drawbacks to it, so some people still opt not to use that technique. I don't know the specifics of why you would choose one over the other. I am not as well versed as as I should be in.
Right. The other day, I heard someone talking on live about in relations to top surgery. Someone asked like, why don't trans people go through into as it comes to top surgery the same procedure that cis men go through when they have gynecomastia, and I don't know a lot about both surgeries, but I know enough to know that that's not the same thing. Just the mere existence, the mere reason that there's two different names for these, it must infer like these are two different procedures, even though they both involve the removal of tissue.
I think technically they both do go through the same technique, except gynecomastia usually can use the keyhole technique because they don't grow large enough that they have to use the technique that a lot of trans men have to use. I know. I would have to look. My husband could speak on it better. Hold on one second. And I know the different names, and I have a basic understanding of the different surgeries trans men go through, but I haven't deep studied it as much as I have, or probably should have, which that's on me. That's entirely on me. I should go do some more research. The last time I was really researching it was around 2022, and we've had a lot of advancements since then. I'm going to hand this over to my husband. You go over, is the surgery the same? The surgery for trans men the same or different than gynecomastia? And then why you would choose to do like your surgery versus keyhole? Can you go over those for me? And it's Man on the Moon. Okay.
Hello, Man on the Moon.
How are you doing there, Coachies? What's your story?
This button now also.
Okay. So hi, I'm a trans man. I got.
Before we
chest
go any further,
masculinization
you got a name? I don't want to
Yes,
be
my
rude.
name is Zib.
Come again?
Man on the Moon knows you.
My name is Zib. You'll see me in the comments. Sometimes I'm ZQ. That stands for Ziv is queer. Don't worry about it.
Let us speak
But,
with Zeke. Anyway, yeah.
not Zeke. No. So I got chest masculinization surgery in 2023. So it'll be 2 years this summer. And the difference is, so it's different than someone with gynecomastia in the sense that, like, if you cover your shoulders, this is TikTok. No. That's...
You don't gotta cover that either.
It's different from the surgery in gynecomastia, because gynecomastia, their chest is already masculinized, like their body frame and everything is already set up. It's just more fat production. It's not growing in the way that a feminine chest would. Whereas for a trans man, it is growing in a more female framed body, and so the masculinization, what they do. Are you okay? Are you guys okay if I show you my scars? I'm gonna need an okay from you and then the people in the chat.
Type one in chat
good.
if you're okay with Ziv going through this and showing scars, because it can be a problem for some individuals.
The real question is the app gonna do anything about it? Because
the app can cry later. So these are my scars.
Which have gotten way lighter.
Yeah, they get lighter over the years. They were very bright, and I do have pictures posted, so you can go and see them of when I first got it done and they were fully healed. What scars?
Yeah, basically.
So they go all the way up into my armpit, right here. And then I got a pre-nipple graft. And you'll see the same on this side, and the nipples are a little bit more over, whereas for keyhole, you're not. Keyhole is a very specific thing, so that's if you are like an A or a double A. You are not.
I thought you can do it all the way up to C.
Yep.
Okay. So
otherwise, I would have been able
so
to
I'm
get
wrong.
keyhole.
I thought you just chose not to.
Yep.
Okay, so I had the wrong information.
So keyhole.
That's why I had you come over.
Keyhole, even a B cup is very hesitant on getting keyhole because it is meant to literally just suck the fat out through the nipple. So what they do is they cut your nipple off, they take it off, they suck the fat out, and then they put the nipple back on. And so there's no other adjustments. They might take a little bit of the loose skin, but technically they really try to do it where it's keyhole is very hard to qualify for. You got to be pretty much already flat for them to do keyhole. And then what they tend to do is they actually really want the skin and its elasticity to shrink back down instead of removing any excess skin, because that makes it a little bit harder.
plus there's all that stretched out skin since you have once you remove all that tissue, there's all that excess skin there.
Yeah, so with keyhole, again, what they do is they literally, and they don't even take off the whole nipple, they literally go under the bottom half of the nipple, they flip it up, they suck the fat out, and then they sew it back up. They might remove just a tiny bit of loose skin, but their main goal and what they hope for in keyhole is for that skin that's been stretched by that very minute amount of fat, breast fat, to shrink back down due to the elasticity of your skin. They don't really want to go in because the goal is for it to be masculine, so they want it to be able to grow with your peg.
So it's like with what's this? What the hell? So it's like with when a woman gets a boob job and they put in that silicone, but in reverse.
Kind of, yeah. So the goal with like breast augmentation is they're going to, if you're looking for a certain size, it may take a couple surgeries because the skin does have to stretch slowly over time.
I heard that they put
And
that
so,
silicone in so it gets like irritated and it grows to like, and then when it gets the size you want it, that's when they get it removed.
not necessarily. So with breast augmentation, the whole point of breast augmentation surgery is for the implants. You're not going to be able to get the fat to grow more than it is. You'd have to really, really be looking for a miracle there.
When you're doing it as a trans woman, they will not do the surgery unless you've been on estrogen for a minimum of a year.
Yeah, so you have to be on for a minimum of a year. They do try to push for 2 years just because they do want to make sure that your natural breast growth is done.
They're actually pushing for 3 years now, because that's what the study they're starting to show.
Yeah, because they want to make sure that your natural breast growth is done so that you don't end up with a size bigger than what you want. Because then they'd have to go in and give you another surgery that's unnecessary. It could have been avoided in the first place. And that's kind of the same thing with like starting kids on puberty blockers. It helps prevent surgeries that wouldn't have been needed if they had gotten them on. Mostly for trans boys, it stops the breast growth. Or highly reduces it. So it helps without needing that excess surgery, which is a trauma on the body.
You said earlier that they would wait. They want to make it 2 to 3 years to make sure that you've grown all you can before they make any augmentation. Yeah. So, and you mentioned with the puberty blockers for people at a young age. So, wouldn't that also apply there? Wouldn't you want to make sure that the body's already gone through puberty and done all it needs to do before you start doing that?
So with trans men and trans masculine people and trans boys, yes and no. So really, the only negative side to going on puberty blockers for trans masculine people is they may not get that extra boost in testosterone that every child gets going through puberty, because you get a boost in all of the hormones in puberty. But all in all, it's not a massive amount that can't be corrected through HRT. Whereas for trans feminine people and trans girls and trans women, the negative sides to going on HRT at a younger age, or puberty blockers, not HRT, puberty blockers at a younger age, is it can affect your ability for bottom surgery a lot more. And that's really only it for that one. Yeah. So that's those negative side effects. They're very rare, and it only comes after prolonged usage of puberty blockers. Because I think 2 years of puberty blockers is plenty of time for you to figure out what your next steps are.
Is this the right path?
Yeah. And puberty blockers, I want to be very clear, they don't stop puberty altogether.
Yeah, it's a bad name for them, actually.
You're still going to grow. You're still going to develop. You're just not going to develop specific sex attributes at the rate that your peers would.
Think any of my D&D players out there, think of being in a permanent slow spell when it comes to your puberty. Everything happens a whole lot slower, but it's still happening.
Yeah, but also, once you go off of the puberty blockers, all of that catches up. And it catches up quickly.
6 to 8 months, I think.
Yeah.
snaps back into place.
Yeah. So it's a very, like, it's basically like saying, not
Like a body
necessarily
going through
pause, but
withdrawal almost, or a detox. Like,
kind of.
Yeah.
What it's doing, like what puberty blockers do, is they don't even block it; they slow it down. So think of like you're listening to something in 1.0, and then you slow it down to 0.25. How it gets all long and drawn out, and you can hear every syllable. You're not dummy. No, I'm not dummy. Why do you want my wife? What do you want my wife for?
Probably because I yelled at them the other night for not saying hi to me.
it is very concerning that it took that long for dude to be like, hold up, that's not Demi.
No. That's
Anyway.
one of her friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So with because she's fine. Back off, Summer. No. So with gynecomastia, the surgery is basically like keyhole, except they may remove more skin than they would in a keyhole surgery, because they're not really trying to do any masculinization, because the masculinization is already there.
In most cases.
In most cases. It varies from person to person, but majority of the cases, the masculinization of the chest is already there. They just have excess layers of fat. Whereas for chest masculinization, mastectomies, what they're doing is they are doing the whole process of reconstructing the chest to be masculinized. So, for example, my whole scarring, you'll see some people who only have scars that go here. Mine go up to here.
And then I've seen people with scars that only like cover the same amount of area that mine is.
Yeah, and then some people have scars that are like this long, and it really just depends on the person's body type and what their core already looks like, and their chest and brain looks like. But so mine went into like a square type build. I can't really see this, but like this.
You also
Where?
asked for that specific.
No, I didn't.
No?
No.
Was that off measurements? Oh.
When you go for that, is there like a...
You asked for specific things, and then other things they were like, hey, we should do this, and I can't keep track of which was which.
I had the only choice I really had in the matter was whether I kept my nipples or not.
Okay.
There's like a consultation for how you want it to look in the aftermath.
Yeah, so you'll meet with your surgeon before your surgery, and they will take measurements, they'll take pictures, and they will kind of go over like what your goals are with the surgery.
Now, it's
And
the same
then-
amount of times as like a trans woman. Like I had to go 4 times for measurements and
I
double
went
checking.
in once with my surgeon, but he's also the top surgeon
Just
in trans care
I'm
altogether.
since we're having this conversation, I'm trying to expand it as much as possible. Like I know for me, we went in, we double checked weight, we did weight, we did an initial one like a year out. Then 6 months out, we double checked the weight, we made sure measurements didn't change, and then we did one final one right before I went on the table.
Yeah, no. So yours was very different from mine. I met with my surgeon, and then I didn't hear from them again basically until a couple months before the surgery. So I met with them in October of 2020.
Yes, my husband is a trans man.
Yeah, I met with them in October of 2022, and then I met with. So I met with them then. I got put on the list in 2019. Met with them in 2022, and then I didn't hear from them again after October until April of 2023.
I remember that phone call.
And then that's when I got my like confirmation of my surgery date being July of July I think 17th or 19th.
One of those. I know we had to drive across the country. That's
yeah.
all I know.
of 2023, and then that's the next time I saw my surgeon, and then I saw him again one time after that for my 1 week post-op,
real quick, everyone. Just so you know, you're getting a free education right now. Show some love. Double tap that screen. Share the live. Let's get those likes up to at least 10K. Send a gift or two if you're feeling generous. And if you don't want to do it through TikTok, feel free to send it to the Cash App. Thank you so much for being here and continue to get a free education.
But when I went in, what we did was he had me put on the gown with the opening to the front, and then he came in with his assistant. She was lovely. She was super sweet and super, she was very on top of making sure that everything was a comfortable situation as we continued through the meeting. And then he just kind of felt the density of my breast tissue, and then kind of just looked at the size. He did have me bring in like an actual underwire bra to get my accurate measurements. And then he took some pictures. They used a measuring tape just a little bit to measure around, and then we sat down after they went over everything, so they left, came back like 20 minutes later. We sat down and we discussed, and we decided to go with the surgery that we went with, which was chest masculinization, mastectomy with a free nipple graft, and then I forget what the word is for this, but but basically,
Subdermal?
no, subdermal is under the
Intramuscular?
skin. No, intramuscular is in the muscle. Those are injection terms.
Well, no, intermuscular was something that I could have chosen, where I go in between the muscle with mine. So those are the terms I know.
Okay.
You know what? Get off my line.
You
Goodbye.
asked me here. Kate, what's the word? Nagi, what's the word? Where the cut is under, it's not keyhole, it's the opposite of keyhole. It's the one I got. I can't remember the name. That feels good. I can't remember. Oh. I can't remember it. But there is a name for it. But basically it's where instead of keyhole, you just get the underneath. So what they did was they cut here, and then they sucked out all of the fat and all of the everything, and then they cut off the excess skin, and then they poked a hole for my nipple. They put my nipple there, and then they sewed it all up.
You mentioned grafting and nipples, so those aren't the nipples you had going in?
So they are. They're my nipples. They're just small.
Oh, good.
So what they did was they cut out my nipple, and then they punched it, took out the center of it, and smacked it on you.
What was the question? I heard my name.
The different names for top surgery. Because I know there's keyhole, and then there's like the under. What's the word for the one I got? I can't remember. It's been so long since I've had to use the terminology. No, not laparoscopic. This. Okay.
You know what? Don't ask a question if you don't want answers.
Laparoscopic means when they go inside your body with tiny little incisions. It's usually for like removing organs.
Also, you have a giant computer at your fingertips. You could just Google it.
Google is your friend.
You don't need to make logic out here. That's what it's called. So I guess there's multiple different ones. So there's double incision, which is what I got. Buttonhole, inverted T, which means so that's usually for people who are a lot heavier. So they cut down the center, and then they cut under, and they open the flaps up.
All right.
No.
Bit of a
Why
delayed
are you
reaction there.
leaving? And then buttonhole, I don't know what buttonhole is. I think that's a very old technique.
Okay. But
Mashallah.
amidst all this, in regards to surgery and all that, with when in regards to one transitioning from male to female or female to male, would those take, say, two individuals were to start at the same time, would one take longer than the other till like everything is healed, everything's recovered, or would they like recover? Do they recover around about the same time? in terms of like post surgery and transitioning and all that.
So what do you mean by that?
Because it was mentioned earlier in the live that in terms of like scarring, well, comparing men to women, the scarring is different. So, and when it comes to transitioning from male to female and female to male, there's there's different surgeries involved because both do involve top surgery and bottom surgery. But when it comes to men, it's more of a like removal and reduction. So yeah, is it if you did all
So
that, would
that's
it be
definitely going
yeah?
to depend. So if we have two people who, for the sake of better words, both fully transition, right? Because I don't like that because a full transition for one person is going to be different than the other. But say they both fully transition, they both go hormones, top, bottom surgery, the whole shebang. We'll even throw in they both get masculinization and face and feminization of the face and everything, right? So they do all of that. That's going to depend because it depends on which techniques are used, what their starting was, their ages. It's going to depend on how their body heals. It's going to depend on where their mental health is at the beginning of the journey. But let's say that everything was the same. They're both, we'll say 19. They both started hormones at 16. They both get top surgery on the same day. They both get bottom surgery on the same day. They both get the masculinization or feminization of the face on the same day. The more likely part is going to be that the trans man's recovery is going to take longer because for bottom surgery, it's no less than a 2-step process, and most of the time it's about a 3 to 4-step process. Whereas for trans women, bottom surgery at most is usually like a 2-surgery thing for minor fixes after recovery. Demi's case is a little different because she had a shitty surgeon, but for her first one, so she has to go in for a couple more recovery recovery surgeries.
Have to, no. And, yeah, kind of have to.
Probably going to take a little bit longer if they're doing everything on the same day, because they have to go back in for revisions.
Yeah, there is a single one for trans men, but it has a low success rate when you're talking about bottom surgery.
Most surgeons won't even touch that.
I'm saying, but it does exist.
Yeah, but
It's just
such a bad recovery rate that most surgeons won't even touch it.
I think it's only got a 61% success rate at current.
6.1.
No.
The single. Yeah.
It's 6.1?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they can legally do that then. I thought it has to be above 25% to be legal.
No. No. Do you know how many surgeries have like a 1% success rate? And if
Not in the U.S.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to look this up. I think you're wrong.
If they're in the early stages of development, yes, because you would be considered a trial patient.
That's different. I'm talking about one that's past trial.
Technically,
I'm gonna look this up because I don't think you're right.
Technically, all of the bottom surgeries are trial surgeries. The only ones that aren't are the ones they don't use. Or very few use.
No longer considered trial. Then it's a decade old.
Well, no surgery is perfect. Anything can go wrong at any time.
Exactly. But yeah, no. So it's just kind of like a in all, if we go, they go the most basic standard of surgery. The trans man gets double incision and gets, we'll say, LFT for bottom surgery, which is where they take a chunk of your thigh, they take the nerve out of your thigh, and that's how they create the penis. You then have to go in, remove a layer from the penis of fat because it's such a big piece. It's going to be like this fucking thick. They go in, they remove some of it, and then once you've healed from it at about 6 months to a year, and then you have to go in again if you want to get it perfected to a specific type, because those first two are just getting into usefulness level, and then any extras would be another surgery.
At least they don't use them for puppet.
Some still do.
Do they really?
Yeah, some surgeons still offer that.
I'm sorry.
If I had to sit there and squeeze my balls to get hard, I think I would kill it.
We are up. Get off
I
the
didn't
line.
finish it. But yeah, no. So it's just going to depend on what their surgery map looks like, and it's going to depend on what they plan on getting done. It's going to depend on their body. It's going to depend on their surgeon. It's going to depend on so many different things that you can't really lay it out exactly. And some may do it differently. Some may go and get the penis surgery and then go and get on phalloplasty. I couldn't remember the word. Some may go and get phalloplasty and then go on to hormones and then go on to get top surgery. It's going to be a very different thing per person.
So if you were to take to like add all that up would take years, essentially. The surgery, the recovery, and being on estrogen or testosterone would take like literal years to do all that.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. If you're an adult, it's a little bit faster when you start. If you're a teenager, it's a little bit longer because they won't do the surgeries unless absolutely medically necessary until you're 18.
Or at least they're not supposed to.
They're not supposed to. If they do and you find out about a surgeon who has, report them.
Right.
But yeah, no, like if you start as a teenager like I did, I got put on the waiting list at 17. I was lucky because I wasn't going to be able to get in to see the surgeon until I was an adult. But some people have to wait until they're 18 to get put on the list. And so it just kind of depends. And there's a massive waiting list because there's so few surgeons that do it. And no one can do it. And so it's going to depend on how lucky you are on getting into the care. And some may have medical issues where it's going to take them, double the time it would have normally taken. Some people get health conditions partway through and have to stop their hormones. Some people get,
I had to have a team of doctors and the full-grown adult sign off on my surgery due to the fact that I have medical complications.
Right. Like, there's so many different things where, like, insurance may require you get a specific letter. Insurance may say, I think you should use this surgeon instead, and then you have to fight with them on why you should use the other surgeon. And there's so many different battles within it, trying to get this care, that you can never say that there's going to be a set path, or that it's going to take any specific number of years.
Contrary to Republicans' belief, you don't get to just walk in and get it done.
And you don't get to just walk into an elementary school classroom and get it done.
Yeah, that is a fallacy that has been peddled in the most absurdist ways. The idea that kids could just go to school, a boy could go to school and just come back a girl, like, there's so much wrong with that. There are so many ways that could not happen.
You mean the schools aren't offering free?
Yeah.
Well, and, like, the funniest thing is, like, the litter boxes, right? So how that started was a school had a stray cat that kept wandering into the school. So they put litter boxes throughout the school for the cat to use so it would stop pissing and shitting everywhere. And
The
then
other one was because of drills.
yeah, and then another school saw these litter boxes. A chemistry teacher actually did this. What he did was he saw the litter boxes in this school that had the stray cat, and he said, we use litter to clean up chemical spills and all of these things. We could use the litter to, if we were ever in a pupilling, for students to use without leaving a smell if they were in there for a long amount of time and they had to use the restroom, so that, you know, little kids who are, you know, terrified for their life aren't struggling to hold it. And then another one said we also could use it to clean up the after effects of the puking. And then Republicans saw litter boxes and schools and furries and thought that those were correlated in any way, shape, or form.
Totally forgetting the fact that these are still human beings at the end of the day.
Yeah. And so it was outlandish. But then I saw a Facebook post that can be traced back to kind of the beginning of this, like, they're going into school and they're coming home with these surgeries and these hormones. And it was this mom posting in this magazine about how her son came home from school and he had his nails painted and his makeup done. And he was trying to explain to her that his girlfriend got bored at lunchtime, and so he let her do it, and he just didn't care to take it off because he was actually comfortable in his identity and knew that no matter what anyone said or how he looked, he knew who he was. And she lost her shit because boys shouldn't do that. And so she posted about it in the Facebook group saying school.
That's a very archaic view of things. The idea that boys don't wear makeup or paint their nails. Can someone please show this woman a picture of Kiss or Prince or...
Yes, right. You do it as an art form. It doesn't surprise me how much makeup I need more. You have more makeup than my mother.
Yeah. Your mother doesn't really wear
anymore, but she doesn't throw it out.
Yeah. That's not good. Most of that probably is old school.
But you do almost like Ren Fair level makeup. You do it for artistic design.
Also because it's fun. Like, putting colors on your face is fun. Why did kids draw on their faces with markers in elementary school? Because it was fun. Because markers were fun.
I mean, it wasn't fun when those kids got home and the mother was like, "What are you wearing all over your face?" Yeah, then you gotta scrub all that shit off.
Yeah, but it was like, that's the thing. It's like, what was biology?
Yeah, it is what it is. In terms of, like,
I might be giving you the wrong word, and I don't want to do that. Give me a second.
But yeah, so to reiterate everything we've gone over, the differences between keyhole, gynecomastia, and trans men getting double incision. Keyhole is very hard to qualify for. You basically have to already be almost flat to get it. Gynecomastia is going to vary person to person, but majority of the times it's just going to be like a removal of the fat and then a little like smaller scarring.
Ikimano gaku?
And then double incision is going to be what I got done, which is you start right here, you go all the way under the armpit, take out all the fat, you take off the nipple, you take off the excess skin, you punch a hole in the skin, you put the nipple on, you sew it all up. And then inverted T, they cut down the center and go out and then open you up this way and remove fat from there. That's also a technique that is used in breast reductions for women as well. And then no one person's journey in their transition is going to be the same. And there's not really a time frame that you can put on it.
Nagi, isn't that in reference to biology class? Like, technically biology class and biology have their own term.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're talking about. I don't speak Japanese.
Very informative It has been, yeah, it's been very informative, Japanese interludes and all. But yeah. So with last I forgot what I was going to say. But yeah, I'll try to end things off with positivity as much as I can. But there was a woman in a gym. Like this is a true story. Like the woman's name is Charlotte Flair. She's in WWE. She's a professional wrestler. So she was in the gym one time and she has a very muscular frame. So she was working out and a dude walks up and comments on her body saying, you look like a man with that kind of physique. And she responds to him, quite possibly the best response to that statement I've ever heard. She says, "Yes, and if you keep working at it, one day you will too."
Ah! Nice.
Y'all have a good day now.
I'm gonna let you go and give you guys back to Demi. I'm gonna go play my game. Have a good
Shadows lost in time, teenage heart and curse combined. Curse sword whispers truth and lies, fighting demons in disguise. Like fire in the night, half demon rage, ready to ignite. World of chaos, dark and bleak, strength in shadows, power I seek. Swing that blade high, cursed and torn, born of darkness feels scorn. Fighting evil, this teach more to might and power forevermore. Shadows must endure, born of darkness feels scorn. Fighting evil, this teach more to might and power forevermore. Darkness burst, guiding through the fight, sword and rage with deadly might. Through the abyss, I carve a path, half demon fury, none escapes my wrath. Moonlit nights and endless screams, this cursed life, A1 it sings. Shadow hunter in the fray, fighting darkness every day.